Hi, my name is Austin Ollis. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of FlyBodies. FlyBodies is a health and wellness company that provides remote health coaching to teachers for education wellness programs, and then also employees for our corporate wellness programs so that they can thrive in their environment. Today's presentation is going to be on our FLY5, the 5 pillars that we use at FlyBodies when doing any type of remote health coaching. So let's jump into it. All right, so our agenda today is pretty short. It's the FLY5, why implement the FLY5 into your life, and then in some frequently asked questions that we get at FlyBodies when we do these types of presentations. So what are the FLY5? To give you a brief overview of what the FLY5 are, I've listed them out here, gave you kind of a bottom line up front. You could take these and implement them into your life, and I guarantee you will start to have more energy. You will sleep better. You will feel like you're not always dragging. So the FLY5 are our eating window, our water intake, our movement and exercise, our sunlight exposure, and then our sleep. And to give you a brief explanation of what those are, we're going to dive into these pretty deep in the coming slides. So I don't want to go into them too much. But our eating window, we want to have a 12-hour or less eating window. And what does that mean? Basically, start eating at you can start eating at 8 a.m. and then finish eating at 8 p.m. That doesn't mean that has to be your eating window, but anything 12 hours or less. So you could even start eating at 10 a.m. and finish at 8 p.m. But we'll get into that a little more. Water intake. Our bodies are over half water, so you need to be consuming at least half your body weight in ounces in water each day for great cell production, and overall just mood and just energy levels are very, very impacted by our water intake. Movement and exercise. So this is something that is, there's tons of different ways to go about getting movement and exercise during the day, and we'll get into that when we go into that slide. But the American Heart Association recommends that you complete at least 15 minutes of vigorous exercise 5 times in a week, or 30 minutes of light to moderate exercise 5 times in a week. So that's 75 minutes total of vigorous exercise if you wanted to do vigorous exercise, and then 150 minutes total of light to moderate exercise. Sunlight exposure. The sun can really do great things and have good benefits on our overall mood, as well as our circadian rhythm and how we go about living our lives. So getting 20 minutes of natural sunlight exposure each day can have a great impact on your overall lifestyle. Sleep. It has been recommended that we get at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, which kind of comes out to the average of 8 hours of sleep every night. So research has been done and shown that getting 8 hours of sleep every night is something that's beneficial for most people. That's not to say it's required for most people, but most people develop cognitively and physically very well when they're getting 8 hours of sleep. And that's for adults. So children, it actually varies as you're growing up. And you actually need more than 8 hours of sleep on average when you're in your growth phase as a child. So moving on to the next slide, here we go. So our eating window, jumping right into it. So why have an eating window? Well, first of all, we are diurnal animals. So what does that mean? We are awake during the day, and then we are asleep at night. That's what diurnal means. There are animals called nocturnal animals. Those animals are awake at night and asleep during the day. Excuse me. And basically, our eating window has a major effect on our biological clock and how we sleep, when we eat during the day, and then also the activity that we do during the day. So your eating window can have a dramatic impact on that. And they have found that our circadian rhythms, when they're interrupted, we are more susceptible to developing diseases and cancers. And how can you interrupt your natural circadian rhythm? By doing things like eating late at night. And in today's world, that is very, very prevalent because we just work at all hours of the day and night. So we find ourselves up at, 11, 12, even 1 and 2 a.m. and we are consuming food when we should be either sleeping or not consuming food. So our bodies are kind of primed to digesting food and giving digestive enzymes naturally throughout the day so that we can, because our body is awake and it knows, since we are diurnal, it knows that it wants to be breaking down the nutrients that we put inside our body. But when we are eating at times when our bodies aren't primed to do that digestive process, then we really kind of create some havoc on when enzymes are being produced and different hormones. And we're kind of giving our bodies some mixed signals. So having that eating window gives us a solid framework and also the flexibility to either try new diets or try new foods or try just different things within that eating window so that you don't always feel handcuffed in certain situations. So, and it's not like that an eating window is something that's revolutionary. It's just we understand as we've progressed as a society that we've started working, 24/7. And when you work 24/7, usually you're not thinking about, hey, when should I be eating? And when should I not? I'm working, so I should be eating. Well, our biology is set up to where it's most beneficial for us to digest and eat food during the daytime, during the daytime hours. And so how would you implement an eating window to begin with? Well, like I said to begin with, you're going to set a time that you consume your first bite of food and then finish your last bite of food. So most people can do pretty easily in a 12-hour window during the day. If you want to have that eating window shorter, by all means, go for it. They haven't seen any major benefits of anything that has anything that's less than an 8-hour window, but that 12 to 8-hour window range, you can play around with that. The biggest thing is that you want to stay consistent and that it coincides with your work schedule. Now, I know some people work, third shift and they're up from, 11 or 10 at night till like 6 and 7 in the morning. And that's a whole new talk. But for most of us, we get to sleep at night and we're up during the day and we're working. So for the majority of people, you can pick a time frame that works for you so that you can stick to this overall eating schedule. And that's, for me, I use a time frame from around 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that's about a 10-hour window. It gives me an adequate amount of time to get the nutrients I need in during the day to get energy, and also enough time at night to digest food before I go to bed. So a good rule of thumb is to eat while the sun is up and don't eat while the sun is down. It's pretty tough sometimes, I'm not going to lie, because a lot of people are up late at night, like I said, watching television, doing work, doing homework, doing all these things that you a lot of times have to get done. And so you feel like you need a snack or you need to get hungry and you want to eat something. So if you are doing that, give yourself an eating window so you can cut yourself off at a certain time frame. And then after that, hey, I'm going to start eating in around 14, maybe even 12 hours. So going that amount of time without eating is not going to be detrimental to your body. And then you want to stick to this. You don't have to stick to the eating window like 100% of the time. You can stick to this eating window around 80 to 90% of the time, and it's going to have very healthy benefits on your overall lifestyle and overall health. So that means, maybe one or two nights out of the week, you don't stick to the window. You stay up late, you eat some snacks, maybe drink a little wine if you'd like. There are optimal times to drink wine, but obviously you don't have to stick to this eating window 100% of the time. So that's our eating window. So let's move on to the next one. Here we go. So I gave a little picture here of a girl. She's probably, I'm assuming she's up late at night with her popcorn, watching a movie. This is where we find ourselves a lot of times. So let's go on to water intake. Water intake is something that is probably very underutilized and underrated when it comes to the overall health benefits it can have on our lives. So Why do we drink water? It is a building block to new cells and a key nutrient in every cell relies on for our survival. So a human can go without food for 3 weeks, without sleep for 11 days, but would typically only last 3 to 4 days without water. And that goes to show you how important water is to our health and well-being, and how much of an impact it can have on us mentally throughout the day, and how well we perform throughout the day. Like I said earlier in the introduction, male bodies are around 60% water on average, and female bodies women's bodies are 55% water on average. And that can vary, person to person, but on average, that's about the amount of water that we are in percentage standpoint. Then going into a little deeper, our brain and heart are 73% water, lungs are 83% water, skin is 64% water, muscles and kidneys are 79% water, and our bones are actually 31% water, which is pretty incredible, because when you think of bone, you don't think of really, a spongy thing that is full of water, but it actually is. And so that just kind of breaks down and gives you, a real example of that's how much our body utilizes water. And so when we are dehydrated or we're not drinking enough water, a lot of these things in our body are actually hurting. They're not getting the full benefit they would be getting if we were hydrated. And that's not saying, hey, you should be drinking 3 gallons of water each day. Our recommended water intake is half your body weight in ounces, because our bodies are already about half water. And then for optimal brain function, I mean, basically cognitive ability goes down when you're dehydrated. So you're not thinking as clearly when you are dehydrated. So being hydrated allows us to make better decisions. And a lot of times we're dehydrated and we're not necessarily hungry. So there will be so many times when you feel hungry, but you actually just are dehydrated and you need water. So making sure you stay hydrated throughout the day is very important. And how we do that is you're going to want to buy around a 32-ounce water bottle, or even bigger. Some people like to have a gallon jug with them so that they can see the amount that they're drinking. And you're going to want to carry that water bottle around with you. So, it used to be that maybe most of the time we're at home and we don't have to travel a lot, or we're working, in a place where we can get a sip of water from a water fountain, stuff like that. Well, nowadays we are always on the go. We're always taking, kids somewhere. We're always going to a practice. We're always, traveling, and you want to have some type of water bottle or some source of water that you can get to, so that you're not dehydrated throughout the day. And even before a meal, you can drink 8 to 16 ounces of water, so that the sensors in your stomach actually get a little more full before you start your meal. So let me take a drink of water here. Break up this talking. All right, so that's water intake. And you will be surprised how much just staying hydrated can increase your energy levels. It can also increase basically make your mood a little better as well. One of the best things I heard one of the things I heard from combat survival training in school was irritation is the first sign of dehydration. And it's never been truer. So if somebody's irritated in your day-to-day world at some point, they just probably need a glass of water. So hook them up. All right, here we go. On to the next one. Some water running, movement and exercise. All right, here we go. So movement and exercise, like we said earlier, it's recommended to get at least 15 minutes of vigorous exercise, or maybe even a high intensity workout, or 30 minutes of light to moderate exercise. And that can be walking, hiking, that can be anything like yoga, anything like that. And yoga could even be, intense, depending on if it's like hot yoga or something. So that's what's recommended by the Heart Association, American Heart Association. And why should we do this? Exercise is super beneficial for overall brain health, better sleep, including improvements in insomnia and obstructive sleep apnea. So just in that regard, sleep can actually help out so much when it comes to, exercise can help out so much when it comes to sleep and the way we think throughout the day. And you can actually have one of the best things I heard when I was taking an anatomy class was the teacher said the best thing you can do for brain health throughout your life is exercise. So it also contributes to better bone health and balance with less risk of injury and falls. So whenever you are standing or you're putting a load onto your body, your bones are actually not, they're bending a little bit. And so what that does, it creates osteoblasts. Okay. So you're building up more bone whenever you're on your feet and you're exercising. And so that allows you to build up stronger bones over time, because once we hit a certain age, our bone density declines over time. So we want to keep that bone density high, especially in women with having children. Osteopenia, osteoporosis are more prevalent in women just because they tend to lose a lot of calcium when they are pregnant and they have children. So it's also exercise results in an increase of neurotransmitters in the brain, specifically serotonin and norepinephrine, which boost information processing and mood. So exercise is incredible because it actually is the precursor for more dopamine production. And dopamine production is kind of the pleasure chemical, but it's also the wanting chemical. So it's literally, if you complete more exercise, you're going to have more dopamine production and you're going to want to do more, and you're going to have better thoughts, better ideas. It's just a whole host of good things that come out of exercise. It's not just to make you miserable, and it doesn't always have to make you miserable. It can be a lot of different things. You can do things that you enjoy, like playing a sport that gets you moving, gets your blood pumping and stuff like that. So how should I implement exercise into my life? Adults, like we said, 150 minutes of oh, there's a typo there. So it's actually no, we're good. We're good. So at least 150 minutes to 300 minutes a week of moderate intensity exercise, and then 75 minutes to 150 minutes a week of vigorous exercise. So you don't have to stop at 75 minutes, and you can and you don't want to just do 75 minutes of vigorous exercise one day and then not do anything for the rest of the week, because then you're not getting the overall benefits of doing it spread out and being consistent with that workout. So they found through research that morning exercise is actually more likely to become a habit, because you don't allow yourself to talk yourself out of doing it throughout the day. And the things that we don't like to do the most, it's better to do those earlier in the day, because we tend to have a little more willpower, a little more energy, and you're less likely to not do that when you schedule it for the first part of the day. Optimal time to work out is going to be 90 minutes after waking up, so your body has time to get warm and get ready to work out. I know some people, have tight schedules, so you don't have that 90 minutes to get your body warm. Maybe give yourself around 30, 45 minutes to kind of get warm before you do that workout. If you only can get up, go outside for a walk right away, that's fine too, as long as you're giving yourself enough time to kind of warm up if you're doing any type of vigorous exercise. And then also, we want to finish exercising around 2 to 3 hours before we go to bed, because that gives our body enough time to cool down. Now, I know sometimes I've worked with clients that have said, hey, I got home at around 9 from work or from a ball game, and so I knocked out my workout at 9:30, and then I went to bed right after that, which is completely fine. Some people are able to sleep like a baby after doing a workout. Some people, you do get an adrenaline rush when you do high intensity workouts. So you want to have time for your body and to really cool down, and that adrenaline to really drop in your body so that you are calm when you go to bed. All right, let's move on to the next. Oh, and so there are so many different types of exercise out there. So it looks like we're doing some yoga outside, which is awesome here. Biking is a great form of exercise, very easy on the joints, and you can go for an extended period of time. It's a good lifelong exercise to get into. Rock climbing, a lot of people really enjoy doing things like rock climbing just because It's a little more fun. It uses the brain a little more in trying to figure out what the best route is. Some people just like putting on the shoes and going for, a nice long run, and that's great as well. Doing things like sprint work and then also doing, light to moderate jogging or walking is a great way to mix up the types of workouts you're getting. And so that's another great form of exercise. A lot of people in the past like 5 to 10 years have really got into CrossFit or kettlebell type workouts and doing high intensity interval training. Great stuff for getting the heart rate up. And then also it's a quick workout. So it's nice because you can knock it out in a short amount of time. Because I know we live in a fast paced world and we don't have time to almost do anything. Going for a hike is an incredible form of exercise. And I think we underestimate how beneficial being out in nature can be. So going for a hike is also very beneficial. And once again, guy doing a kettlebell, I put this out there again, just because it goes to show you, it looks like he has a little gray in his beard. You can work out at any age, all right? From the time, 5 years old to, 90 years old, you see people working out till at any age. All right, so sunlight exposure. Let's jump into why we should get sunlight exposure. So first, we want to get at least 20 minutes of sunlight exposure each day. And why should we get that amount of sunlight exposure? Is because regular sun exposure is a natural way for your body to absorb enough vitamin D. So our vitamin D is essential in a lot of different hormone production, okay? It's essential to a lot of different things. So there's a whole host of those, and I can send a list of that out after this presentation, but just know that vitamin D is essential for a lot of hormone production. And then vitamin D is also essential for bone growth and bone remodeling. We talked about osteoblasts and osteoclasts earlier. So getting that natural vitamin D, just spending 20 minutes outside is incredible. You can get your daily dose of vitamin D without having to worry about it in 20 minutes. And one thing that it doesn't sound like a lot, and sometimes it does sound like a lot, because we've migrated into being indoors on a daily basis throughout the workday, and that's just how our environment has evolved to be, how society has shifted to, because we're more desk workers as opposed to being outside, being under the sun, getting that vitamin D. So taking a lunch break or something where you get outside, you walk around, get that vitamin D, that's awesome. And so also vitamin D has a whole bunch of other roles in the body, including reduction of inflammation, as well as modulation of such processes as cell growth, neuromuscular, immune function, and glucose metabolism. So vitamin D is very important for the body. And then how do we get that? So spend about 10 to 20 minutes outside in the sun. And we talked about that. During the winter months, you want to spend almost a little more time, because you're not getting as much vitamin D from the sun as you would in the summer months to get our full vitamin D dose for the day. And I think I made a typo on this. Shouldn't have added that last block. Apologize. But one thing that sunlight exposure can also help with is our circadian rhythm. And so there's a guy named Andrew Huberman who has a ton of great videos out there that go into how sunlight exposure in the early morning can really set our circadian rhythm for the day and increase our melanopsin production. So our awake hormone, it kind of fires us up and gets us ready to go. And then at night, seeing that sun set and being able to see the sun go down mentally prepares us to get ready for bedtime. So both times have basically their functions in our lives, because sunlight exposure really helps us set our circadian rhythm. So if we're inside all day long, not getting that natural sunlight, it's really kind of messing up our circadian rhythm a little bit. All right, so next, sleep. And sleep might be the most important principle or our pillar of our FLY5. It might be the one, obviously water, super important, but I think sleep plays a major role, because when we get an adequate amount of sleep, a lot of us, me included, feel like we can conquer the world. And I know that when I get around 8 to 9 hours of sleep, I feel incredible. I feel like I'm so refreshed. I have better thoughts. I want to do these things more. I want to work out more. I want to eat healthier. I want to drink water. But when I don't get enough sleep and I'm not getting quality sleep, then my energy levels are down. I feel terrible. I don't want to do, any types of big workouts and stuff like that. And then mentally, you're always thinking about how tired you are. So 7 to 9 hours is recommended by the National Sleep Foundation, 8 hours on average. And consistency is really key because sleep replenishes energy and repairs our bodies in an incredible way. Like we have to have sleep to get all the gunk out of our brain. And by gunk, there's basically something that accumulates in your brain, and it's called adenosine. And it accumulates throughout the day in your brain. And over time, when you build up enough adenosine, it makes you sleepy. So your body at night clears out all of that adenosine so that you can get up the next day and do the exact same thing. And when you don't clear out that adenosine, you don't feel refreshed and all that stuff. So sleep helps with memory consolidation, information processing, physical growth, also repair, and countless other processes that is theorized right now. Sleep is such a superpower. It's incredible. It even strengthens our immune system and allows our body to fight disease. So that is, and I think we all realize that when we do get good sleep, we feel so much better than as opposed to when we don't get good sleep. And I know it's not always going to be perfect because I know you have kids to take care of. You have things like earthquakes that wake you up in the middle of the night and keep you awake all for the rest of the morning. And you also have just random things that you're thinking about, like that just keep you up at night because you're stressed out or you have anxiety about it. It's not always going to be perfect, but the idea is to implement a good sleep hygiene so that you can get prepared to go to sleep. And what is good sleep hygiene? It's basically setting a time at night to where you start kind of doing the sleep preparatory things to get ready for sleep, like brushing your teeth or flossing, turning off all the lights, or just most of the lights. During the evening, if you pick a time that you can basically say, okay, by 9 or 9:30, I'm going to stop watching TV, and I'm going to stop looking at blue lights because blue lights promote the hormone melanopsin, and melanopsin is the awake hormone. Melatonin is the sleepy hormone, and we want our bodies to naturally produce melatonin at nighttime because we want our bodies and we want to get sleepy. And if we don't allow enough time for our bodies to produce that melatonin, then you just kind of lay down and you could lay there for an extended period of time. And we weren't meant to basically at this period in time, biologically, we weren't meant to be looking at screens and blue light all the time because the sun actually emits the blue light and has that melanopsin production. And so when the sun goes down and we don't have a lot of light, then our melatonin production ramps up. But if we inhibit that by looking at blue light, then we're not necessarily getting our bodies prepared to go to sleep. So it's incredible how much better you'll sleep if you do a little preparation to begin with. And so that's going into basically having times just like an eating window. If you have an eating window, let's say from 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, you have about 2 to 3 hours before you need to or a time frame that you can digest all your food. And then you can set a time frame to where you say, you know what, I'm going to start getting ready for bed and I'm going to get in bed so that I can get sleepier and then get ready and then fall asleep easier. Also, the best time to be asleep is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's just from research that's been done. Your body recovers mentally and physically very well during that time frame. So a lot of people tend to stay up till 12, 1, 2 o'clock, and you're missing that window that we are biologically made to basically replenish and re-energize during that time in the most optimal time. And then you want kind of a cooler uh, temperature in your room for when you sleep, because the temperature in our bodies actually cool down when we're getting ready for sleep. So throughout the day, our temperature in our body slowly decreases, and then at night, our temperature is at its lowest point when we're sleeping. And then gradually around 4 to 5 a.m., our body temperature starts to rise to wake us up. So you want kind of a colder temperature in your room so your body can actually get ready to go to sleep, and that kind of prepares it even more. It's kind of like turning off all the lights so that you're not looking at blue light. Having the temperature in your room turned down a little bit about 30 minutes before bed kind of gets you ready as well. All right. So why the FLY5? Let's go into it just a little. If those things weren't you know, evidence enough as to why you should do it, science and research studies back these 5 principles, and we kind of went into that a little bit. And you know, the results really speak for themselves with the clients we've worked with. They have just it's awesome to hear people say like, I'm sleeping so much better now that I'm exercising and eating healthier. And that's not even necessarily eating like perfect, because there's no perfect diet out there, but eating within a window allows you to have a time frame where you're like, all right, I can digest all this food and I can sleep even better. And going along with that, our if we give ourselves a good framework, it gives us so much more flexibility to do things that we want to try. So like, and that kind of goes into the next bullet of there's no real perfect diet or lifestyle. So having these frameworks allows you to play around with that. So what do I mean by that? So if you have an eating window from like 10 to 8, and you don't necessarily know what foods are the most beneficial for you, you can keep that window, but you can change around all the foods and have that flexibility to where you find out, okay, I'm having a good window, but I don't necessarily know what I need to eat. So let me play around with that, but still keeping the same window. All right. So, and then it also gives you the opportunity to more often than not, when you're 80% or 80 to 90% of the time you're sticking within a good eating window, that other 10 to 20%, you can kind of play around with and do things outside of that and not feel like bad about it. Because a lot of people tend to, you know, feel bad if they have like something great to eat, or like they call it a treat. And you shouldn't if you're doing these things about 80 to 90% of the time. One thing that we know that people have is, you know, ideologies or preconditions like type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes, some other things as well. And then also philosophies that people have. So like these things aren't really impeding on any types of ideologies when it comes to like either like being a vegan or vegetarian or meatitarian, that type of thing. And then also they kind of go in line with your overall like life in general. Like these things aren't, you know, completely changing your world upside down. It's just dialing them in and refining it. Also, we have shifted in the past like 30 to 40 years to a very, very fast paced world in this 21st century. And we are constantly on the go. We are constantly doing something that we feel rushed we're having to do. So working out for a 15-minute workout, or, you know, getting 20 minutes of sunlight, those are things that you can implement into your life that aren't going to turn your world upside down. And we have found that when you tell somebody, hey, you only have to do a 15-minute workout or a 20-minute workout or something along those lines, that sounds way more doable than telling somebody, hey, yeah, you're going to have to drive 30 minutes to the gym, work out for an hour, then drive 30 minutes back. Not many people have 2 hours to spare during the day because we just have so many other things we have to do. So it's about these little things you can implement into your life that you can stay consistent with. Okay. It's not about doing something for 30 days and then not doing it for the rest of the 11 months throughout the year. We want to do these things consistently for 365 days, you know, in that time frame, not, or even 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, not just a small amount of time. And then the last thing we think, or we believe at Fly Bodies, is having the knowledge about this stuff first, then implementing it into your life, and then understanding how it affects your life is the main thing that we believe these 5 pillars really help out. Because once you know why these help out so much and then you implement them, you can see exactly and understand completely how much of a difference it makes. All right. And it's not just me telling you this, because this is the stuff I try to implement in my life on a daily basis. And it helps me tremendously when it comes to learning new things, having energy, and getting, great recovery, great sleep. So that's why you should implement the FLY5 into your life. Frequently asked questions. I'll go through these really quick. Can I drink alcohol in the FLY5? The answer is it's up to you. And I'm not going to say you can't, and I'm not going to say you should. It's you can. It's up to you. They've done studies to show that, obviously, drinking alcohol versus not drinking alcohol has different effects. And I know that some people use alcohol to maybe relax on the weekend or at night or something like that. Now, you want to try to stick to these FLY5 principles. And that's not saying, hey, you never can drink alcohol. It's just saying, hey, if you like to have a glass of wine at night, have it within your window. And so that you can digest that wine over that 2 to 3 hour period before you go to bed. Because having alcohol, as we know from a lot of videos of watching Matt Walker, does affect your sleep. And a lot of people, use alcohol as something that relaxes them. So it's not saying you shouldn't have alcohol. It's just like play with it inside the FLY5. If you don't drink alcohol, that's okay too. We kind of touched on this next one. Can I work out 75 minutes one time during the week and still get the same benefits? The answer is not really, because spreading out a 15-minute exercise over 5 days is definitely different and more beneficial than just getting one 75-minute workout in one day. If I feel good on only 6 hours of sleep, is that okay? So after listening to a lot of Andrew Huberman, he, from his explanation and a lot of other scientists and researchers in this area, a lot of it is how you feel during the day and how much energy you feel, if you feel lethargic or if you feel energized. Some people can operate on 6 hours of sleep, and that depends on like some type of the genes that you have in your body and the DNA that you have. Other people commonly need on average 8 hours of sleep. The real benefit is with consistency. All right, getting a consistent 8 hours of sleep every night, or 7, maybe 7.5. Getting that consistent sleep is the most beneficial part, and picking a time when you do that, from like 10 to 6 or 11 to 7, something like that. What diet is best? And I can't answer this question. That's for you. I know what works well for me, and I know what works well for a lot of people. But over time, and having a framework of saying having an eating window allows you to do this. And what Sachin Panda's research showed, which is pretty incredible, is that they fed mice the same exact diet that they were eating when they were eating all the time. They ate it within that 8 or 12-hour window, and they lost weight. So that's why the eating window has such an effect, is you can potentially eat the exact same food you're eating now and still lose weight and become healthier just by having a good eating window. So what foods that I may want to stay away from? I can answer this to a certain extent. Any processed foods, which there's a ton of them these days, anything that's processed, like heavily processed, not like just, minimally processed, but heavily processed, you kind of want to stay away from, because we want to eat foods that are basically as natural as possible, like fruits, veggies, protein that is naturally sourced. The more processed it is, think about how much your body has to recognize what it actually is. Okay. Going through your organs, your body's going to be squeezing out the nutrients from the food that you eat. And if it doesn't recognize food and it thinks it's a bad actor, it's not going to let it in. So the more natural food is, the more likely food will be let into your body by your large and small intestines. Can I move my eating window around if I have a crazy schedule? So once again, from a consistency standpoint, we want to stay as consistent as possible when it comes to your eating window, just like your sleep schedule. Bouncing it from, we'll say 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then the next day you go, oh, I'm going to bounce it from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Consistency is very important when it comes to your eating window. You can maybe 1 or 2 hours here and there, but you want to keep a consistent eating window, and you want to be able to stick with that over a very long period of time. Now, you can mix it up every now and then, which is fine, but try to stay consistent. Next question, what if I'm a night owl? So a lot of research has been done to show that a lot of times people aren't necessarily night owls per se. They are just looking at screens and they're watching TV and watching blue light at night. So they're not necessarily getting ready for bed. Now, there are some people that have insomnia and stuff like that. But if you start to turn off the blue light a lot earlier and allow yourself to get ready for bed, you will be less like a sleep or a night owl. You'll start going to bed a little earlier. Now, if you are like someone who likes to stay up at night, then you maybe need to just back your window up of sleep and eating just a little bit. Okay. So if you like to go to bed around like 11 or 12, maybe stop your eating at around 9, maybe 9 or 10, and then start it up again around 11 or 12 the next day. That's just an idea. Can I drink coffee outside my window? Does coffee count towards my water intake? So those are two different kind of things. People have different basically stances on what breaks a fast and what doesn't break a fast. If you don't have anything inside your coffee, like no nutrients whatsoever, then I would say personally, coffee is fine to drink. Like, don't put anything in it, no sugar, no cream, no nothing. And that would be fine to drink before your window actually starts. But if you want to drink coffee with actual creamer or sugar or something like that, then wait until your window starts. And for coffee being counting towards your water intake, it does to a certain extent, but also coffee is a diuretic, and so it does dehydrate you a little bit. That's not to say that your body's not absorbing that water as well, but if you can just drink, if you can drink water throughout the day as well, that is also great. Are there any foods off limits? Technically, with the FLY5 and fly bodies, no food is really off limits. We give you that freedom because we don't want to basically dissuade, or we don't want you to say, I can't have something. We want you to make the choice to say, I don't want to eat that right now, as opposed to saying, I can't have it, because sometimes, a lot of times, if we say we can't have something, we want it even more. So no foods are necessarily off limits, because then that doesn't restrict you when you're out and about or on the go and you need to stop and grab something to eat. Sometimes you have, like if you're out in the desert and you need to get fast food because that's the only thing around, get it. If not, you don't have to get it. You can, fast a little longer and then wait till you get something else. But that's why we don't say any foods are off limits, because we don't want to restrict you and make you want those things even more. So those are the frequently asked questions we get. If you have any more, feel free to reach out. These are all the citations I used. You can go through them. And that's it. So that's the FLY5. I hope you enjoyed that presentation. It was a little long-winded, but I wanted to get into a few things that a lot of people usually have questions about. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is austin.o@flybodies.co. All right, that's my email. Feel free to reach out at any time. I'll answer any questions, either about the FLY5 or even about fly bodies and the programs we have to offer. And then also, if you want more information on this, I can point you in the right direction. I love learning more about the body and what things that can help us live healthier and more productive lives, and also be happier. So thank you so much. I appreciate you listening to this, and have a great day.